Started. So, welcome to the Santa Clara Community Organization meeting. I don't see any brand new faces, so I will skip the part of who we are and what we do and don't do, because I think you all are aware of that. Women's restrooms down that hallway, men's restrooms down that hallway. Next month is a board meeting, so there won't be a meeting here. And tonight we have a program with Better Eugene Springfield Transportation and their plans for River Road. So we'll get started with that. And after the presentation, before you just bug out, if you would stay for another couple minutes, because we want to discuss a transportation related issue about lowering speeds on River Road for part of River Road, and the city needing a letter of support from us if we support it. And so we should just have a brief discussion and general membership vote about it while everyone's here. So if that works for you, I'd appreciate if you just stay an extra 5 or 10 minutes when this part's all done. Okay.
Did you say Logan was going to speak for a few minutes beforehand?
Well,
or?
if he shows up,
okay.
I mean, I didn't get any confirmation, so that he would just talk about that public hearing for that.
Okay. Sounds good. Would you want me to pause if he showed up to have him do that?
If it's convenient, that's fine. And I told him if he doesn't come, I will just represent it the best I can, and we'll just work with that.
Sounds good.
Okay.
All right. Well, hello everyone, and thank you for taking time out of your evening to come here and talk about transportation on River Road. My name is Peter Simmons. I'm an intern with BEST. Rob wasn't able to make it tonight because he had some prior obligations, so I'll be representing this project. But that's just all right because I'm going to be the one taking the lead of this project regardless.
Peter, we stop for 1 second? Yeah. We didn't do introductions, sorry. Spaced it out. Can we just do that quickly?
That's perfect.
So we'll just go around the room and say who we are and where we live. I'm Kate Curley and I live on Wendover Street, and I'm the chair of the organization.
That's always kind of on Blackfoot, and I'm on board on Kevin Reed. I have a partner in Carpona, and I'm on the board.
Terry Reed. I don't think we're related. We're not sure. But I'm also a board member. I live at River Road and Beacon.
Matt Bose, member of the board, River Loop 1.
And Gary Wildish, I live on Punch.
Jerry Moore on the board. I live on Spring Creek.
I'm Jerry Finnegan, I live on Irvington on the board.
Louis Moore, I live on Greenwich Avenue, I'm on the board.
I'm Leslie. I live on Edwards Drive.
I'm Jim, and I live on Briar Street.
Charlie Hennessy at West Street.
Joel Narva, I live on Echo Lane.
Terry Yarda. I also live on Echo Lane.
And Kaliski G, let's hear from you.
Gary Haliski on Altura Street.
Great, thanks.
All right.
Take it away.
Thank you. Nice to meet you all. So to provide a little bit of background about who I am and what perspectives I'm coming to this project with, I'm a master's of community and regional planning student at the University of Oregon, and I'm starting my second year of 2 doing that program. Before doing this, I was working for 4J School District as a long-term substitute, where I was subbing for middle school and high school teachers who are on long-term medical leave. So I spent a few months at various schools, including Eugene High School and a couple weeks at Kelly Middle School. And then most of my time was at Cal Young Middle School and Churchill High School. So I've been a little bit all over the place in between doing that job. And yeah, I live in the Fairmount neighborhood, but and most of the time when I'm coming up on River Road, it's going to be for thrifting or coming up to my doctor who's on River Road. So most of my experiences that I've had at River Road for this.
Sorry, I'm just learning this.
No worries. So just to give you a little rundown about what we're going to be talking about today, I'm going to provide some background on this project, the things that are happening before this project, what this project is, and then at the end, I'm going to have a lot of time just to hear you guys' perspectives on ways we can make sure that we hear from the community in an authentic way. So, oh, and then actually back there, one more thing. We're doing this same project on Highway 99. Another intern is taking that, and also we're nearly completing the same sort of project for Franklin. All right. So
you give us a little bit about who BEST is and what they do, because most people have no idea.
Thank you for that. So Better Eugene Springfield Transportation is a nonprofit that does transportation-related advocacy in Eugene. And so there's a lot of different volunteer groups within BEST that do advocacy in different ways. Some, like one of our most active groups right now is doing advocacy around sidewalks, and that's a group of volunteers that are advocating for safer sidewalks. We have a group that advocates for safer bike infrastructure and a public education group. And then there's two staff members, Rob Zako and Claire, and then now we have two interns. So it's a small but nimble nonprofit that's been here for about 15 years, I think. Yeah. So River Road, you've probably heard of a lot of different plans that have been going down, and some have led to some really cool actions. Some of them kind of felt like they've been sitting in the shelf. So we have the neighborhood plan and the code amendments and action plan that have come with it. That's starting to be worked on separately. There's the LTD has many different projects they've been working on. The system review, moving ahead, is the one that most people have heard about, which kind of came to a peak a couple of years ago with the recall of Clara Charette, and that kind of put that whole plan on hold. And there are these other plans as well, the climate action plan, transportation system plan. You don't have to know all these, but the main thing that you probably already know is there's been a lot of talk about changes to happen to River Road, and not a whole lot has happened. And so the one thing I want to say is we are not the city. We are not trying to have one more plan about River Road. What we're trying to do is consolidate and ask a few questions. You go to the next slide. Yeah. So there's been some good goals in the Santa Clara neighborhood plan of things to do to River Road. So implement a transportation system that is designed to be safe for all users. That's awesome. Promote a connected and efficient multimodal transportation system that is equitable and affordable, that addresses congestion on River Road. Plan for a transportation system that is future-oriented, environmentally responsible, and transition to zero carbon. So these are really great goals, but it's kind of hard for the city to take these goals and turn them into actions. And so that's kind of what we're doing with this project, is we're trying to be a lot more specific about here's what's working and here's what's not on River Road today, so the city can take that and turn it into the project that we're working on. That's a little bit of foreshadowing for what we're getting to next. And then the other thing is there's a need for public support to see action. And so one thing we're really trying to do is gauge many different communities in Santa Clara and in River Road. Because right now the city is kind of frozen. Clara Charette got recalled, and there's kind of this fear, this lack of understanding about what the community actually wants. And so the goal is by the end of this project, we have a lot of different responses from a lot of different corners of the community, and be able to tell the city, this is what the community is actually wanting. This is what is working, this is what is not. Because right now there's this uncertainty that is preventing the city from doing any positive changes. Okay. So that is our central question. Is River Road working for you and others today? If the answer is yes, River Road is working great, then that's awesome. Then we can go home, the city doesn't have to make any changes, we don't have to spend any money, and then we're good. Based off of conversations we've had so far, we don't expect the answer to be, yes, River Road's working great, but if it is, then that's awesome. And the other thing is the street safe, practical, welcoming, and enjoyable? And so those are the primary questions we're going to be asking over the next 6 months. So to provide some understanding of what we've done elsewhere, we've pretty much done this whole project already on Franklin Boulevard. Franklin Boulevard had a very similar situation where it kind of got stuck. It got frozen, specifically around 2020. And BEST came in and asked the community, what is Franklin Boulevard working for you today? And most of the community said, not really. Franklin Boulevard is not really working. And so then it's like, okay, we can all kind of start from this general understanding of we need some sort of change. It's not working where it is now. And so what BEST is not trying to do is we're not trying to say this is the solution. We're trying to just ask this question, is it working for you? Why is it working? Why is it not working? So that's what we're doing. So the methods that we're doing. The big thing we're gonna be doing is a survey for the kind of the qualitative, the numbers, results. And so you can expect that to come from the community organization between January and March. We're gonna have a couple months. We're gonna try to get this out in as many ways as possible. If you have input on ways to get this in front of people, we'd love your input. And also going to be a lot of testimonials and conversations. And so a big thing we're trying to do is hear from people that were not heard from in the first time this process went around. And so that's going to be talking to business owners to hear their perspectives. That's going to be talking to people with disabilities. That's going to be going to North Eugene High School, talking to the high schoolers, what's working, what's not. And all these different groups as well. And then also going to be going to community events, things like this and other events in the community to try to just get the word out to as many different people as possible. Yeah, so at the end of this project, we're going to be continuously coming back to y'all with what we've been hearing and kind of like, summaries of our results beforehand to make sure that it's actually, what you guys think is going on in the community. And then there's going to be two kind of final documents. There's going to be a Q&A document, which is going to be for sharing to the community. It's going to be written in plain language, trying to avoid planner speak. And then there's going to be a formal memo that is going to be shared with ODOT, LTD, and the city of Eugene, which they can then take as they begin with their work. And so the goal with all of this is so when the city of Eugene begins their redesign of River Road next year, they know exactly what the community wants before they get started, because they're planning to start that process in about a year. And then just a heads up, we're getting paid for all of this by ODOT. I should have mentioned that in the beginning. We have a grant from ODOT, and that's what's paying for this project to happen. So, yeah, so these are the questions I have for our discussion tonight. Who should we talk to in the community? Whose voices have been missed in past decisions and in past planning processes? And what challenges may the city and the LTD not really know about or not see, in the past, and then what you think might happen a year. Yeah. Yeah, my contact info is there if you're doing more related.
So Peter?
Yeah.
What happened with the Franklin survey results? You had all the results. Did the city listen to that? What was the end result?
Yeah, so where Franklin is right now is those survey results kind of showed the community is totally on board with making it safer for walking and biking and all of those things, but the community has been really uncertain about roundabouts. And so the city heard that, and they heard the survey for best and all the other input, and they decided to do a study specifically on whether the roundabouts are going to work with the amount of bikes and pedestrians that exist on Franklin Boulevard. It's right next to the university, and MX goes right through it. There's a ton of pedestrians, especially during basketball games. And so they hired a consultant to study how it's going to work with all of the pedestrians and all the bikes that currently exist. And that report is going to be coming out in the next couple of months. And the results of that report will probably determine whether they get started or whether they go back to the drawing board.
So I've been listening to transportation situations just like this for the past 7 years on River Road. So it's putting a smile on my face.
Yeah.
What I would like to see is, rather than you be looking for a wish list, figure out what solutions to the problems that they were having on the road you guys could create. So it's solution based and not wishful thinking. And the way that happens is we need to know, well, what problems are the ODOT trying to solve on Beltline in order to take some of the pressure off of River Roads, because people are using that as an on-ramp to get to the city rather than using Beltline, because the Beltline is so congested. So if there's a solution to that problem that's coming down the pike so that it eases our minds so that we can figure out, well, maybe that's a solution to that problem. Let's take a look at some of the other problems that we could use to create those solutions for the River Road area. So rather than to be wishful thinking about what I'd like to see, what is the reality? What is needed to be seen?
So if I'm hearing correctly, you're looking for like Beltline to be addressed first, and then after that.
Well, it'd be nice to know what ODOT's plan is and when that plan is going to come to reality, because we've been working on that for the past 7 years.
Yeah.
And we're working on trying to put a new bridge across the the Willamette. And so knowing where they're at in their planning stages, obviously is going to have an impact on what decisions are being made about what's going to happen on River Road.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know if River Road, because that bridge is going, so I don't speak for ODOT. I don't really know a ton about the project, but my understanding is that bridge is really far in the future because it requires some sort of federal funding. I don't know too much about that project, so I don't want to speak too much to it. And so I don't know if River Road has to wait for Beltline to be done first, though. Like, and the reason, just to give a little bit of the context of why we're trying to focus on problems and not on solutions, is because the moment you start talking about solutions, there's so many different priorities that people are thinking about that it tends to just become this big muddled like mess. And so if we can have an understanding of what the community actually thinks is the problem first, we can have a lot more clarity when we're
Every one of these meetings is exactly the same, where you're trying to get to that point and you're never going to get consensus, ever.
about what the problems are.
Well, no, you're never going to get everybody to agree to the majority opinion about what their consensus is about what needs to happen on River Road.
Yeah.
I mean, so if you're not solution oriented, it's in reality, if you're solving that problem because there's congestion, or there's bike problems, or there's pedestrian problems, if you're not solving the problems, then really it's just wishful thinking. And if you think you're going to get consensus about what everybody's going to agree on, that's what we've been talking about for the past 7 years.
Yeah,
We never got the consensus.
We're not looking for consensus. We're looking for pretty much majority, or we're looking for what most of the community is looking. Because you're right, we're not going to have consensus about something like
Okay.
that. Yeah.
I think it's sync the lights. That would just be like a great first step. I know that we've talked to Councilor Clark about it, and he's talked about that there's jurisdictional problems, but on my way to work this morning, I sat at a red light with a green light in front of me. And then by the time I got to it, it was red. And then the one in front of it was green. And it took like 7 minutes to get down River Road from maybe 10 minutes. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
And it was just all backed up, and like everything's just like a part of the sea in front of you. You just can't go there.
Yeah.
They could sync the lights like they do on 6th and 7th. I think it would. And I think Council Clark, they had said, well, we're not trying to speed up River Road, and I understand that, but at the same time, you got to get the traffic through it.
Yeah. That's that.
I was surprised when you talked about the River of Santa Clara neighborhood plan.
Mhm.
Because we only spent, what, 7 or 8 years getting that. We spent 5 or 6 years getting ready to have the meetings, and then we had a year and a half of meetings. I think that says what we want.
Yeah.
I think it's in there, and if you don't understand the language, there's 5 or 6 people in here that were very involved in that.
Yeah.
And they'd be happy to interpret for you what that means.
Yes.
So I would not I got the feeling that you're pushing that a little bit off. I think that should be a main thing to respond to these questions.
Yeah.
Because a tremendous amount of effort by a ton of people, and there's thousands. I mean, we're not talking about, meetings for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, Kate, how many hours did you put in? 200 or 300 hours? Yeah, but there's other people here. It's the same thing. So don't take it lightly.
Absolutely, yeah. And my apologies if it sounded like I was casting it aside. I guess my point with that is, and I have read it, and there's a lot of really good information there, but some of the actions, you can't have both. Like for example, it mentions that like a huge need is like traffic throughput, specifically around Beltline, but it also mentions that safety is the #1 priority. And there are some of these where when talking about the River Road corridor, I feel like there's need for additional clarity about like what is the main priorities of the community. Do we want to go all in on safety, or do we want to go all in on making sure we have a minimal amount of congestion? And as an example,
These are extremely reasonable people involved.
Yeah.
And there's a list of everybody that was on the transportation committee. And maybe you want to talk to some of those.
I absolutely do. Yeah.
Because I have an idea that
Yeah.
he may be able to help you on those.
Yeah. Absolutely, and yeah, and we're hoping that Santa Clara Community Organization can be a huge partner with this. Can y'all, I would love to hear if there are other organizations in the community, like for example, in River Road, one of the first things they talked about is like the River Road Parks District should be like a huge partner in this work. Are there other organizations that you can think of or other individuals in the community that might be good folks to talk to? Yeah.
I'm sure you're quite aware of this now, that the issues in Santa Clara is vis-a-vis River Road is quite different from the issues in River Road.
Absolutely.
And so, whereas people in Santa Clara are using it as a main artery to get to town, basically, River Road becomes an issue of splitting the neighborhood in two. And so solutions up here will be different, quite different from the ones in Florida.
In terms of voices that have been missed in past decisions, or I don't know if they're exactly missed, but you mentioned talking to businesses.
Mhm.
When we tried a lot in that neighborhood planning process to reach out to businesses and involve businesses. But when we really when I think about crafting long-term solutions that won't just hit barriers the minute they leave the gate.
Yeah.
Businesses have to be some more time spent really drawing out the business perspective, because they're right there. They can create tremendous roadblocks if they're not consulted.
Yeah.
And it was hard, I think, for them, or for whatever reason, that, maybe they're there during the day, they can't come to evening meetings out here like we had listening sessions of all different kinds.
Mhm.
But I don't know that the businesses participated as much in that.
Yeah.
And so their voices probably do need to be, if somebody has time to really go there and line that resource, it's a good place to go.
Yeah. I appreciate that.
We didn't try to miss them, it's just they didn't come to things, for various reasons, for various valid reasons. So if somebody can go to them and hear from them, that's probably gonna help.
Yeah, my current plan for business outreach is just going and door knocking and seeing if I can find the manager and seeing if the manager would be willing to share contact with the owner.
Yep.
Does that sound?
Yep.
And
I think that's.
did anyone in the prior process have more success with another method, or?
Well,
is that-
that was one of my categories.
Yeah.
And what you say is exactly right. Yeah, I talked to a lot of them. There's a lot of interest, but their level of ability to be involved in detail, they're running a business. I got 35 employees on the floor. I got, but
They should be interested because.
But they are.
Right? It's just a matter of getting to them. Yeah.
it really is, and I think if you do it that way, because I got good information,
Mhm.
Don't do it on the phone, don't do it on emails, forget that. But if you're willing to do it eye to eye, I think you'll get good input.
I think another group that got missed, again, not for lack of trying, but just for various kinds of structural reasons, there's a number of senior facilities, elderly and senior living facilities out here that, folks are kind of shut in a way, or not as mobile, not as able to come to things. So those senior communities have very unique transportation challenges.
Yeah. I know with senior communities, sometimes they can be a little protective of giving people access to their residence. Has anyone here worked with senior care facilities and know the best strategy to kind of get in contact with residents to hear their stories and their perspectives? Yeah.
I think the best strategy is to have a really simple feedback form available that you can leave at the front desk and say, can you make this available to your residents in a way that doesn't require them to do anything except share their thoughts? And I'll come back in 2 weeks and pick it up.
I appreciate that.
And I know that the Santa Clara Community Plan did their best to take these into consideration, but other groups whose voices may have been missed include cyclists and pedestrians and Yeah, people who don't drive specifically. And, you know, one consideration that I don't see more than one or maybe two examples of around town are pedestrian specific crossings, like a sky bridge or a tunnel that consider the needs of traffic and pedestrians as separate in order that may enable traffic throughput and safety to coexist. They're not mutually exclusive with the right investment.
There's another group that I was thinking about that was going through all that stuff. We didn't have the number of multifamily units in this neighborhood. And today, there's a lot more. And those people weren't here. So we didn't have it. But that'd be an area because that will not go down. That's going to go up as a percentage of the population.
I really like that Skybridge idea. I drive to the University of Oregon Matt Knight Arena, and there is actually half a dozen more of those fancy apartment buildings up. Students crossing them all the time, which is great, love students, but it just slows down everything. And having a Skybridge, I lived in Japan, they have Skybridges for the tunnels, and it doesn't affect traffic at all. It's safer. Obviously, it costs a little bit of money, but how much money would we save if they had a little Skybridge across from a 1,000-unit apartment or whatever that, you know, you have to stop the traffic.
Another group that I was thinking of is people who ride the bus. How can we engage the voices of people who don't drive and see their needs as being equally as prioritizable?
Yeah, when we did our walk audit last month, we noticed, and one of the pictures on there was like a ton of high schoolers, right when school gets out, we're getting on the bus. Like we had a picture in the slide deck. There's like 40 people trying to cram on to like one of the smaller buses, the 40-foot buses. And yeah, so I'm hoping through working with North Eugene High School, like working with my connections that I have there from working there, maybe I can like sit down with a civics classroom for a day or two and hear their perspectives on it. Because yeah, I feel like that would be a lot of the LTD ridership. And people like them too. Yeah.
One idea, it sounds like in your department, public planning or whatever has multiple projects going on, like you mentioned the 99 and the Franklin.
Yeah, that's within BEST, the nonprofit. But yeah.
Not you specifically, you're working on this one.
Yes.
There's different people working on different ones. Some way to advertise in bike shops across town, because like I go to a bike shop that's not in Santa Clara Road, most of the time, and better service for the types of bike center.
Yeah.
So that people can, you know, they may not live where they're shopping or taking their bike in for service or whatever. But then they can give feedback on neighborhoods that they commute in.
Yeah. Makes sense.
This is more a question with reporting the data that you collect. Is there a reason why Lane County wasn't listed with the city and LTD as well as ODOT? Just because we are.
Yeah. So ODOT is because as part of the grant, our only really requirement as part of this grant is we need to provide them the report. They don't say anything about what sort of content needs to be in that report, and so we are completely free to share exactly what the community is feeling. And then LTD and the city are because they are the two that are working to redesign River Road. Because the city owns the entire corridor that is being studied, which goes, I think, I don't want to say a road because I don't exactly know how far that goes. But yeah, the entire corridor that's being studied is city road. And Lane County would be side streets that aren't being studied as part of this project.
I'm just wondering if there's a reason why maybe some of the data might be useful to the county.
That is a good point. We should definitely share it because I know in River Road, we've already been hearing a lot outside of the corridor, access to the Parks District, their main building. Like there's no bus that goes there, and like access there is really hard. And so that's something county should know about. So yeah, I would definitely add that. Thank you.
Just for.
One of the actions in the neighborhood plan is from people in River Road, trying to relieve some of the pressure on River Road. Their problem is that they have like 3 streets that intersect the expressway. And those streets are circuitous, you know, it takes a long time to get from the River Road to the expressway. And so one of the action items is to try to solve the problem of accessing the expressway, which you go through the road.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure you will hear that from them too.
Yeah, and as part of the voices we have that have been missed in past decisions, I want to talk about the elephant in the room, which is that like when Clara got recalled, a lot of like city folks were like completely blindsided by that. And I know some people in like the River Road Community Organization used that exact word when I was talking to them last month, that it felt like they were blindsided, and that they hadn't really talked to the folks that were part of that recall campaign. Do y'all know, like, I don't need you to be calling out like people by name, I guess, because that would be kind of weird, but just like what sort of groups or organizations maybe would be good to talk to hear the perspectives of folks that were really not happy with MX, and that whole experience. Yeah.
So what we found in the past is that if you reach out to the churches, you're going to get a much broader swath of people within the community because of the different denominations, but you're going to have a variety of people of different ages and lifestyles that you're going to be able to reach out to versus trying to reach out to them with a formal mailer, because you're not necessarily getting to everybody that would have a voiced opinion on that. And if we, like you said, if you could come up with a questionnaire that is simple, so that you're going to get a response rather than something that is, you're going to have to flip the page. They're not going to spend the time to do that. But if it's something they can do in a quick hurry and they get that response back to you or type it into their computer, you're going to get some kind of response. And then you're going to get a response from people that are elderly. You're going to get a response from people with children. And I think it's a great idea for you to be talking to those students, because what better people to talk about pedestrian accessibility to different businesses than the ones that are taking off during lunchtime and hitting the streets. So there's a variety of different questions that could be answered by opening up that swath of communication with a variety of people.
For communicating with churches, do you think the best way to do that would be to like pulling aside the pastor and kind of asking for their permission?
So what I did is I went in and I talked to the pastor first and said, hey, look, this is really, really important to the community. We feel as though that there's been a vacuum of non-information going out to enough people. What we'd like to be able to do is share with you what this flyer says, and then how you present it, and what we're trying to accomplish with that flyer. What information are they trying to garner? What solutions? What are they trying to solve? What are they trying to do? And anytime you're talking about, safety for your children, safety for your parents, all in all, you're going to get everyone's attention, and everyone has the same kind of similar concerns. They just don't know that there's a opportunity for them to be able to solve this problem. And if you give them that opportunity, they're going to be amazed at how many people will chime in, but they're not going to spend a lot of time giving you information.
Yeah.
You should definitely get in touch with the parent organization for kids at North, because the parents have a different perspective than the kids on what's safe and what isn't safe. And they have a different way of approaching it.
Remember the name of the organization by any chance?
No, but I'm sure I could find out for you if someone to follow it for that. And I just,
I think I have a contact.
yeah.
That'd be great.
And then we talked about multifamily places, but like Peace Village, and then like the Laurel Hill Center, which is not yet built but will be, and only 8% of their residents have cars or drive. So that'll be, they already have experience with the resident, people. So you could go to their other facility and talk to them about it.
Yeah, talking to like service providers is going to be a huge part of our outreach on Highway 99. And definitely should be part of this one.
Trying to talk to somebody that provides truck traffic on River Road. I don't know a lot about how much truck traffic is really on River Road. But I would certainly want to talk to some things about trucks and whatnot, like U-Haul, for example, and run with like sand place and gravel. So, you know, some of the intersections now we're not really able to let trucks right in. And to see more trucks having problems going places, but that's, I think, our force to be on the river road.
Yeah, do Delta Sand and Gravel, do those folks use River Road much for their operations?
Yeah,
They do?
well, they have to, unless they're going just development.
Oh, got it.
Okay, we talk about River Road, but a long time ago, Jerry, we talked about bicycles and pedestrian. Wow. And we could, our goal was to minimize or reduce the amount of pedestrian and vehicle or bicycle traffic on River Road. We were able to draw a map around our neighborhood that would facilitate that so that people wouldn't have to be on River Road. For me, I go on the River Road quite often. And one of the scariest parts of doing that time of year was bicycles. Because not all bicycles, the riders don't dress appropriately. But not all bicycles have lighting and whatnot necessarily. And I have come within inches. And that's just, and that's something that you know, I don't know what you need to do, but it's spooky, especially on River Road, because I've got trees that I've seen in the blinking lights. The vehicles give me a blinking light. And the bicycles, if they have blinking lights, it gets wiped out by the blinking lights on the cars. Because I'm looking through all these trees. And so mine might be worse than most, but it's a big deal.
So your vision is being blocked by the trees? So
There's trees, there's roadside trees.
Mm-hmm.
On River Road at Division up to Santa Clara. And that just happens to be my intersection. And it's, the numbers of times that I've had close calls is just not a good idea.
As it is here.
Then those electric bikes, they're much faster than any peddler has ever been. And so now they're coming up on you much faster to the point where, I mean, you look up and they're right there. So I'm hoping that they're going to address that and maybe force them to have to act like a car, stay in the auto lanes and not be riding those bikes in the bike lane, because they are very quick, very fast.
Yeah. I do. I'm not sure how much that's, I'm trying to phrase this. Like when we're focusing on the River Road corridor, like I do want to be mindful of, there are some issues that I can't really be designed for. And I don't know how much the city would be able to address them in like a River Road redesign. But like definitely like keeping in mind like the fact that bikes are going faster now, like I think that'd be part of the design. Yeah.
One thing, we've talked quite a bit about that brand new intersection that got put in.
Yeah.
And how that was going to be the model. And yeah. I think there was going to be some like closeouts and maybe some presentations on like how well it went or how, if there were lessons learned.
Yeah.
And I think that would be a good one for you guys to attend and, you know, maybe help facilitate.
Yeah.
Just because if that's going to be the model moving forward for all of River Road and Santa Clara.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it works well for a lot of bikers or people turning, but
a big corner intersection.
Yeah.
You know, that was awful. And
Yeah.
it just, for me at least, I mean, it loses faith. I lose faith in the people at the time.
I go, I mean, there's just people that, I don't think I've ever seen a bike actually stop. I think that they're all supposed to stop and use the crosswalk. They're supposed to divert off and use the crosswalk. And they just get in the traffic and hop on. And I think that Kate's point, you know, not just with parameterization in 4J, but if you went to the middle school in Aubrey, to their PTAs, I know they're pretty active PTAs, and I bet you get a lot of feedback from those parents.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, because it's hard looking at the websites, knowing which PTAs are going to be like pretty active and some are pretty dead. Like for Howard Elementary.
Aubrey will be
The Spanish language one is specifically like really, or, oh, you know, yeah. Yeah, so operate, that's good. Thanks.
You have a conversation with Safe Routes to Schools since they
Yes.
do their own study all the time.
Yeah, Safe Routes to School is definitely on the list.
I don't know about other folks, but I avoid River Road at all costs, and I live in North End. So I hit, Northwest Expressway, and I just go, I don't even shop in the area if I can help it. Because the road is so congested, it's rarely a time I can, I'm retired. I have time to the day to make trips, but it really doesn't help. So, I find going elsewhere, that I feel better about those, rather than being stuck in traffic for long periods of time for a short distance.
Yeah.
But having something on your survey that asks what if, you know, to use an alternative route rather than using River Road, what do you do?
How many are
It'd be
going
helpful to know how people are moving.
Did that.
Yeah, Sean, that's
Way
been a lot busier recently.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of folks who just heading over there, even though it adds a few miles to my trip downtown. Because Beltline's so congested that I don't like hopping on that just to get to it. It is kind of a pain.
I do want to be mindful of time, so maybe we'll take one or two more questions. It is getting late into the evening.
I don't think we answered your question about how to avoid being blindsided by, say, a citizen group that would rise up and torpedo whatever kind of decision at the last minute.
Just happens here.
It's just how we roll.
Part of that was that the vast majority of the people involved in that weren't actually living on this corridor. They did go door to door and garner support, but the impetus for all that did not come from our neighborhood.
Or River Road.
And so it was really about supporting a process that they thought might come to them next, and so let's shut it down here.
Wasn't that once anybody said MX, everybody just kind of said.
Well, once they said lose a lane of traffic,
Right.
that was the death knell. So,
which still comes up.
yeah,
And just a few meetings ago, someone brought it up.
Yeah, people are still upset by annexation too.
A couple ideas of where to find alternative voices might be at the Grange, at events they have at the Grange, or at the American Legion.
And yeah, I have emailed both of them and haven't gotten much back. Do you know, is there a sort of event or something where it would be appropriate to just like show up and like?
I think you can go to the American Legion and get a beer and sit down and talk to the fellas.
Okay.
Like that would be, that's what they do there.
Sounds good.
The Grange meets so every so often.
Just whenever the parking lot's full, go inside.
Sounds good.
Get some chicken.
There's two Granges. There's the Irving Grange and the Santa Clara Grange. And we can put you in touch with people.
That would be lovely. Thank you. So Irving and Santa Clara.
Where's the cemetery range?
On Azalea, the east end of Azalea.
All right. So just, yeah, a reminder on some of the next steps. We're going to be sending out a survey and starting in January, and that's going to be going for a few months. And then based off of those results and some of the other people that we're reaching out to, we'll be kind of reaching out to individual people to have like continual conversations to hear like specific perspectives as well. That will be the main thing. And then hopefully around March and around May, I'll be coming back to maybe, assuming there's time for me on the agenda, to kind of give you guys some insight into what we've been learning and making sure that actually is authentic to what y'all do.
Where will we see the survey? Is that an email or a mailing? Or?
So I'm hoping we can commandeer the Santa Clara Community Organization's newsletter maybe to put that out, if that's all right.
You mean to
Yeah.
use our email list
Yes.
to be able to do that.
Yeah, we could send it to you and then if you could send it out to folks. Would that be all right?
I don't,
Yeah.
we can always put a link for sure.
The thing is that it's done through my contact, which means I send a newsletter out. And there's a whole list that's there. It would take me forever to actually access it myself.
Do you think, in the newsletter, you maybe adding a link to our?
I can do that.
Okay, perfect. Then, yes, yeah. All right.
So the other person to connect with would be Gary Holiski, who may or may not still be on the virtual call, but he pushes out our stuff to social media. And there's like a River Road Santa Clara Facebook page, and there's all different next door groups, and you would get a lot of eyeballs on something if you did it that way too.
Perfect.
Yeah, next door could be a good place to get feedback.
Yes. I haven't used it yet, but I'm planning on doing that as part of this project. I've heard that a few times. Nextdoor and Reddit is where you get people's authentic views on life.
It's unfiltered.
Unfiltered, that's a good way to. Yeah.
I do have, a contact for you for the parent group at North, and she said, we, the North parent group, are on the North Eugene website also. So that might be a resource for you, and then I can give you her contact. She's okay.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. Thank you all for being here. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.